Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into Beyond Green, crafting eco projects with permaculture and strategic insight.
Yes, today we're focusing on Chapter 2. It's all about laying the groundwork, the prep work.
Before you jump in,
Right.
you don't just start building a house without
Without figuring out where to put it, what kind of foundation.
thinking about the environment.
Exactly. And that's what this chapter is about, understanding the landscape you're working with, both literally and figuratively. And the book really emphasizes this, market and environmental analysis.
Both of them, before you even start thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down. Market analysis, I'm always kind of, yeah. But Beyond Green mentions this SWOT analysis. What is that?
SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Oh, okay.
So it's a way to kind of assess where your project is and what its challenges might be. So, for example, if you're starting an eco-friendly clothing company,
Okay.
your strengths might be that you're using organic cotton and you have ethical manufacturing practices.
Right.
But a wetness could be that you're more expensive than the fast fashion giants.
That is a big weakness. So where do opportunities and threats come in?
Yeah, so an opportunity would be that there's a growing market of people who want sustainable fashion.
Okay.
And a threat would be that you have all these massive brands that are churning out these really cheap clothes
Yeah.
and undercutting you.
Okay. So the book actually talks about a company
They do.
that had this exact problem.
Yeah, so what they did is,
How did they deal with it?
well, they realized they couldn't compete on price.
Right.
So they instead focused on quality and durability.
Oh,
And they really honed in on their brand as this ethical and sustainable company.
so they found their niche. Okay, so market analysis is really about finding your place,
Finding your place within the existing.
right system. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Now, what about the environmental side of things?
So that's where permaculture comes in. The book talks a lot about observing and interacting.
Permaculture. Now, we've talked about this on the show before,
We have.
but if somebody is just joining us, can you give us a quick
Yeah.
rundown of what?
So permaculture essentially is about working with nature to create these systems that are in harmony with the natural world.
Okay.
So understanding your environment, its natural resources, the climate, the ecosystems.
So you're not just grabbing your shovel and digging.
No, because what if the soil's contaminated?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
there might be drainage issues. There might be all sorts of things that you need to take into account.
The book actually gives an example of.
It does. There's this urban garden project.
Right.
And they got so excited to start.
Yeah.
But they actually discovered that there was contamination in the soil.
Oh,
And
no.
so they had to completely shift gears.
See, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't just start digging.
No, you need to do your due diligence.
Do your research.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about market analysis.
Mhm.
We've talked about environmental analysis.
We've laid the groundwork.
And now what's next?
Now we get to the exciting part, which is setting the vision.
Ooh, that's my favorite part. Let's talk vision.
So the book emphasizes a strong vision statement.
Okay.
So this is like your North Star.
Okay.
It's your big overarching goal.
This is the dream, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So for example, if you were creating an eco-village, your vision statement might be to create a model for sustainable living. That shows harmony between humans and nature.
That's a great vision statement. But how do you actually get there?
So that's where the mission statement comes in.
Okay.
So this is the actionable steps. This is the how-to, your why.
Okay, give me an example.
So going back to the eco-village, the mission might be to achieve food and energy independence, to restore the local ecosystem,
Oh, I like that.
and to foster a strong community.
Okay, so the vision is the destination.
Yes,
And the mission is the path
exactly.
to get there.
And then along that path, you need some benchmarks.
Right.
And those are your objectives.
Mm.
And you want to make sure that your objectives are smart.
Now, we always talk about SMART goals on the show.
We do.
But I always need a reminder.
Mhm.
What is a SMART goal?
So a SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh,
So instead of saying we want to reduce our carbon footprint,
which is a great goal.
it is. A SMART goal would be we want to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 25% in the next 3 years by installing solar panels and switching to energy-efficient appliances.
Okay.
So that's a SMART goal.
You got a deadline, you know you're going to do it.
Yeah.
That's measurable. Okay, so we've got our market analysis, we've got our environmental, we've got our vision, we've got our mission.
Mm.
And now I feel like we're missing one big piece,
What's that?
the people.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Green talks about community and stakeholder engagement.
Oh, it's crucial.
Why? Why is that so important?
Because sustainability is not just about, building cool, eco-friendly things.
Right.
It's about people. If you want your project to actually have an impact and to last, it needs to be embedded in the community.
So how do we do that?
So first, you need to figure out who your stakeholders are.
Who are stakeholders?
So stakeholders are anyone who is impacted by your project or who has a vested interest in it. So let's go back to the eco-village example.
Okay.
Your stakeholders would be the residents, obviously,
Of course.
but also the surrounding communities, local businesses,
Oh, interesting.
maybe some government agencies.
So it's about understanding who's at the table
Mm-hmm.
and how they're going to be affected or how they could contribute.
Yes.
Okay. And then how do you actually engage them?
Beyond Green suggests a variety of strategies. So public meetings, workshops, you can even use social media
Oh, interesting.
to gather feedback
Yeah.
and to build consensus.
Right, because not everybody is going to agree with you right off the bat.
No.
So you have to actually hear what people have to say and incorporate it into your plan.
Exactly. The book gives this great example of a water management project, and they actually used workshops to address farmers' concerns about water access.
Oh, that's really smart.
Yeah, so they were able to come up with solutions that worked for everybody.
I love that.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. Okay, so market, environment, vision, community.
We've covered a lot.
Feels like we've laid a really strong foundation for any sustainability project.
Yeah, and the book goes into much more detail about all of this, obviously.
Let's take a little break and then come back and talk
Yeah.
about the next steps.
Welcome back. We've laid the groundwork, like figuring out the market, the environment, our vision.
Right, like we've got the blueprint, we know what we're building,
Yeah.
but how do we actually start building? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so chapter 4 is all about design, and it really leans into these permaculture principles to guide you.
Okay, permaculture. We talked about this a little bit in the last section.
We did.
But just to remind everybody, what are we talking about here? What is permaculture design?
So it's this idea that you're designing systems that are modeled after nature, working with nature's patterns.
So not just about planting a tree, it's about planting it in the right place.
Exactly. It's about creating an entire system.
That works together.
Yeah, that works together.
Okay, so Beyond Green mentions this thing called zoning.
Yes.
Zoning, like city planning zoning.
It's similar.
Okay,
You're essentially dividing your space up based on how much human interaction is needed.
so give me an example.
Okay, so think of it like concentric circles
Yeah.
radiating out from your house or like the center of your activity.
Okay, I like visuals.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Concentric circles. All right, so what's in those circles?
So zone 0 would be your house or your main workspace, like the heart of your project.
Okay.
Zone 1 is for things that need a lot of attention, like your vegetable garden
Oh.
or your chicken coop, things you're interacting with every day.
daily.
Zone 2 would be less intensive, like fruit trees.
That you don't have to check on every day.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe a pasture for some goats or something. Zone 3 is even less intensive, so maybe like larger scale food production or more wild areas.
So as you go out, less and less human interaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Zone 4 is like wild foraging,
Okay.
and then Zone 5 is completely wild. Leave it to nature.
You're just letting nature do its thing.
Yeah,
I see. Okay. That makes sense. So you're putting things where they make the most sense.
right. And it minimizes waste.
Yeah. You're not running back and forth across your property
Exactly.
and everything has its place.
Mm.
Okay. That's zoning. The book also mentions this concept of sector planning.
Yes.
What is that?
So sector planning is understanding the natural forces that are at play on your site.
Okay.
So the sun, the wind,
Yeah. Okay.
water flow, wildlife.
And you're mapping that out to help you know where to put things.
Exactly. So for example, if you're building a house, you'd want to orient it to maximize solar gain in the winter.
To keep it warm.
Yeah, and to minimize it in the summer, to keep it cool.
That's smart.
Yeah.
We talk about passive solar a lot on this show.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Or if you have a garden, you'd want to think about the wind. And maybe plant a windbreak.
Like a row of trees or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's sector planning. So we're really starting to get into the nitty-gritty of the design phase here. The book also talks about biodiversity
Oh, it's so important.
and polyculture.
Yes.
What are those
So biodiversity is about having lots of different species.
in your system?
Yeah. And polyculture is planting different things together.
Okay.
Instead of just a monoculture, which is just rows and rows of corn,
Right, right.
you want a variety
Yeah.
because it makes your system more resilient.
So give me an example.
Like in a garden, you might have corn,
Okay.
beans, squash.
So it's not just all one thing.
Right. And this
Mhm.
makes it harder for pests to take hold
Oh.
because they can't just wipe out everything.
Yeah, because if they don't like beans, then they can't eat everything in your garden.
Right. And you get all these beneficial insects
Oh, that's right. Okay.
who like the variety too.
Okay, that makes sense. So designing a sustainable project in a world that's increasingly affected by climate change.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How does that factor in?
So the book really stresses considering your local climate, rainfall, temperature swings, even potential natural disasters.
So you wouldn't design a project the same way in, say, Arizona as you would in Oregon?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like if you're in a dry area, you'd want to prioritize water conservation,
Okay.
like rainwater harvesting, drought-tolerant plants.
Right.
Whereas if you're in a place that floods a lot, you might design swales or rain gardens.
To manage that water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Beyond Green also talks about microclimates.
Yes.
Remind us what those are again?
So those are little pockets.
Little zones. Okay.
Yeah, little zones within your larger landscape
Yeah.
that might have slightly different conditions.
So like a south-facing wall.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be a warm, sunny microclimate
Okay.
versus a shady area under a tree.
So you can actually use that to your advantage
Exactly.
by understanding your microclimates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now we get into resources.
Yeah.
Water, energy. How does Beyond Green address those?
So for water, it's all about a holistic approach, seeing it as a precious resource, rainwater harvesting, gray water systems.
Okay, we talk about that a lot on the show.
We do.
But remind everybody what that is.
So gray water is the water from your sinks and your showers.
Okay.
And you can reuse that to water your plants.
That's right. Okay. And energy.
For energy, it's all about renewables.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Solar panels, wind turbines, even microhydro if you have access to flowing water.
So lots of options.
Yeah.
Depending on your location and your needs.
Exactly.
It sounds like it's all about creating this really integrated and sustainable design, taking all these pieces into consideration.
Mm-hmm. But it's not just about the technical side.
Right.
The book reminds us that we need to be thinking about the community
Yeah.
and the ecosystem.
So it's not just about, say, having the most efficient solar panels set up. It's about how does that affect the people around it
Exactly.
and the environment around it.
Mhm.
Okay. So we've talked about zoning, biodiversity, water, energy.
Yeah.
We've really gotten into the design phase.
We have.
But now we need to figure out how to actually make this happen.
Yes.
So let's take another break and come back for the final part,
That's good.
where we will talk about implementation.
Welcome back. So we've got our vision, we've got our design, we've got our permaculture principles. But how do we actually make it real?
That's where Chapter 5 comes in.
Okay.
All about implementation,
Right.
bringing your project to life.
And it all starts with the people, right?
Yeah. You can have the best design in the world, but if you don't have the right team,
It's not going anywhere.
it's just going to stay on paper.
So how do we build that dream team? What does Beyond Green say?
So the book really stresses figuring out what skills you need.
Okay.
Like, do you need engineers? Do you need permaculture experts? What about community organizers, financial
It
specialists?
depends on the project, right? Yeah, like an eco-village team is going to look different from a team that's, say, starting a community garden.
Totally. So you figure out what you need, and
But then you see, do we have these skills within our team already? Or do we need to bring in some outside help?
okay, and it's not just about skills, is it? Because you've got people working together.
Oh, team dynamics are crucial.
So how do you foster a good team environment?
Beyond Green talks a lot about creating a collaborative culture.
Yeah.
Open communication, shared values.
Respect for each other.
Yeah, that's so important.
Especially in this field, where you might have people coming from totally different backgrounds and perspectives.
Right. So the book suggests a few things, like setting really clear goals and values from the get-go,
Okay.
encouraging feedback, making sure everybody feels comfortable speaking up.
And celebrating your wins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Celebrate those wins, big or small.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
But even the best teams are going to face challenges. So how do you make decisions? Especially in a field as complex as sustainability, where things are always changing.
Beyond Green talks about this concept of adaptive leadership.
Oh, what is that?
So it's about being flexible, being willing to change course when you need to.
Okay, because you might start out with a plan,
Right, and then you hit a roadblock.
or You get new information.
Exactly. Or the community gives you feedback and you realize, okay, we need to tweak this.
Or the climate changes. I mean, we're seeing that all the time.
Yeah. You got to be adaptable.
So being comfortable with a little uncertainty and seeing challenges as opportunities to learn.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we've talked about community engagement in all stages of the project.
It's woven throughout.
But why is it so important during implementation?
Because this is where the rubber meets the road, you know?
Yeah.
You've got your plan, now you're actually making it happen.
And if the community's not on board?
It's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to last.
So what are some ways to keep people engaged during this phase?
So the book talks about things like public meetings, workshops, online forums for feedback.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So people can stay involved even if they can't make it to a meeting?
Right. And you can even empower community members to take ownership of certain parts of the project.
Oh, that's interesting. Give them a real stake in it.
Exactly. So they're not just passive observers.
They're part of the team.
They're invested in the outcome.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
But how do you know if you're actually on track, if your project is actually achieving what you set out to do?
That's where monitoring and evaluation come in.
Okay.
Beyond Green really stresses this, that sustainability is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Right. So you need to be constantly checking in, seeing how you're doing, making adjustments as needed.
So implement, monitor, evaluate.
Rinse and repeat.
Exactly. And it's not just about environmental metrics, is it?
No. You need to look at the social impact. Is this benefiting the community? Is it creating jobs, improving quality of life?
And what about the economic side?
Yeah. Is it financially sustainable? Can this continue in the long term?
Okay, so we're really looking at the whole picture.
Holistic sustainability. That's the goal.
Okay, so let's say you've got this amazing project. It's doing great. It's hitting all its goals. What's next? What does Beyond Green say about scaling up?
That's the exciting part. Taking your success and replicating it, expanding it.
So how do you do that?
It might involve partnerships, sharing your model with other communities, even advocating for policy change.
So it's about creating a ripple effect.
Yeah. It starts small, but it can grow into something really powerful.
That's inspiring. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Beyond Green.
We have, from the initial vision all the way to implementation and beyond.
And I'm feeling really inspired.
Me too.
Like, I want to go out and start a project right now.
Yeah, there's so much potential.
So to wrap things up, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest one is that sustainability is about interconnectedness. The environment, the economy, the community, it's all linked together.
And it's about being adaptable.
Yeah, because things are always changing.
Willing to learn, willing to collaborate.
And remembering that every step we take, no matter how small, can make a difference.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Beyond Green.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am.
I hope so too. Get out there and make a difference.
And until next time, happy exploring.